Hey, hon, hand me a crescent wrench. No. 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 No.
What are you doing in there anyway?
Just working on our next game, honey. Gizmos.
Hey there, guys. I've got Gizmos on the table here. Let me let you guys take a look at this game. Lots of cards and components to this game, including these really cool energy marbles here. And what you're going to be trying to do in this game is you're going to be trying to get these different energy marbles that will then let you build these different kinds of gizmos that will eventually let you increase and upgrade the engine that you are trying to build here to try and get victory points here that are either on the cards or in the shape of these tokens over here. So let me explain to you guys how this game works. Each player is going to get one of these boards here, a ring, and their basic gizmo to start the game with. And what you'll be doing on your turn is one of these 4 different actions here. So let me go over the different actions. They are written on your player board strip here, and so that's very nice. The file action is your first option, and when you do that, you can pick any one of these gizmos that are out here on the board, and you just take it and you add it over here to the right area of your player board. And essentially what you're doing is you're putting this in reserve. You're saying, I'm going to build this at some point. I'm taking it so no one else can take it, but I can't build it yet at this point in time. At the beginning of the game, you start the game with a gizmo, a basic one that doesn't give you any victory points. And whenever you take the file action, see how this has the same icon shape as that? Then you get to do this action right here, which this icon tells you you get to draw 1 energy marble at random from the container here. And whatever you get, you put in this circle. Now, at the beginning of the game, you're limited to 5 different energies in this little circle here. You can only file 1 gizmo in your archive. That's what we did here with the file action. And then when you do the research action, you can look at 3 cards. We'll come back to that here in just a second. The second action you can do on your turn is you can pick, and this means to take 1 energy from the 6 available in the energy row. The energy row is this right here, and there are 6 visible marbles here. I know you can see a 7th one kind of coming out, but you can only take from the front 6. And so you just pick whichever one you want, and again, that goes over here into your pool. The third possible action you can do is to build. And when you build, you're going to build, let me replace the one that I filed earlier. You are going to build one of the available gizmos out here on the board or any that you might have in your archive. And by building, what that means is see this number right here in the bottom left, that's how much energy it costs to build this gizmo. And the icon and color right here, right above that number, tells you the type of energy that you need. So for instance, to build this gizmo, it would cost 1 blue energy, which I happen to have. So I would take my 1 blue energy and I would put it back into the container, and then I would build this gizmo. Now where I put it is dependent upon this icon here in the top left corner. And so this is a wrench, and that is the same icon for build. And so I would put this under my build action here. And what that means is that now whenever I take the build action, not only do I get to build something, but I get to activate any build cards that are underneath that build action. And so for instance, this one would say that whenever I build a black gizmo, so one that requires black energy, such as this one right here, I would get a victory point, one of these little guys. And so that's very nice. And I would just add that over here to my player board area. That's the third action I could do. The fourth action I could do is research. And so that comes back to this number right here, 3. Whenever I research, I'm going to pick a deck of cards here, and these are level 1 gizmos, level 2, level 3. The numbers underneath those the Roman numerals are the number of energy that it costs to build the gizmos that are in that deck. So for all level 1s, it only costs 1 energy. 2s obviously cost 2 to 3, and level 3s are the most advanced gizmos, and they cost anywhere from 4 to 7. So when I research, I take the top, in this case, 3 cards off the deck here. I get to look at them, and I can pick one of them to build if I have the energy to do so, or I can then file it. So in this case, I would maybe take this red one here because I do have 1 red energy, and I would build it, and looking again at the top left corner here, this would go under my converters. And what converters are, they let you change the energy that you have into other things. So for instance, I could turn 1 black energy into any kind of energy. That's what this card means. So I would spend my 1 red energy to do that, putting it back there in that container. And now I have this red gizmo here under my converters. I then take the leftover cards that I had, and I can put them in any order I want, and I put them at the bottom of the deck from which I drew from. And that is the research action. Now, as you guys can see, there are lots of different kinds of cards here, lots of different icons, and that would be the first thing that I would have you know about Gizmos, is that the iconography in this game is pretty advanced. It's pretty extreme. And so do be mindful of that when playing with your non-gamer friends, that they will not get the icons here. In fact, you might even have a difficulty with it. And so that is why this reference guide here, which as you can see has lots of words and lots of icons on it as well, but this thing comes very much in handy. And so reference this thing, and that will be something that can help you when trying to teach non-gamers. The next thing that I would have you guys know is, and I already kind of covered this a little bit, but as you build these gizmos, you're going to be putting them under the different actions or converters or upgrades, and that's going to make your engine better throughout the course of the game. But every time you take the action, you're going to activate all the cards underneath that. And so, for instance, I might have that card and that card underneath my pick actions, and I could have this card under my build actions. And so every time I would take a pick action, if I picked a red or a yellow from the energy row here, it's going to allow me to take an additional one at random from the container. And for instance, if I already kind of went over that card, but if I were to build something from my archive, I would get to take 2 things from the energy row here, 2 energies. And so that's kind of how that aspect of the game works. It is a little complicated, and you do want to explain that thoroughly to your non-gamer friends, because they may not understand it, or they may play incorrectly. That does happen in this game, in the sense that they're just taking these basic actions and not activating the cards underneath the action to let them get additional things. So make sure you explain that to them. The game continues back and forth, each person taking one of the 4 actions available to them. And the way the game ends is once somebody has built their 16th gizmo, including the one that they start off with. So if you have 16 cards here underneath your player board, then you've activated the last turn. Or the second way is if somebody builds their 4th level 3 gizmo, and as you can see, these level 3 ones have a gold border at the top rather than the just normal gray. Once somebody has done that, that activates the last turn, and every player will get to have the same number of turns. So this is the first player board, and as you can see, it's kind of a brown color. Everybody else gets a gray color. And so if it's the first player that activates the last turn, then everybody else will get to go. If it's anybody after the first player, then anybody who hasn't gone that round will get to go, and then the game will end. You'll count up all the victory points that you have managed on all the gizmos that you've built, and any victory point tokens that you might have, and whoever has the most is the winner. And that's how you play Gizmos. All right, so here is Sam and I doing a 2-player run through of Gizmos, and we'll start off with our thoughts on this game. Sam, what did you think about Gizmos?
We played it 2 times, and the first time I will say I had difficulty with the icons on it, just knowing what they all meant. And it took me pretty much that whole first game just to get the hang of it. But it is a fairly quick game, and so I felt like the next time I did get it a lot more. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good game. It's very similar to one of my favorite games, Splendor. The whole buying or
taking cards to get other cards.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
Yeah. There's definitely a Splendor feel to it, and I'm going to come back to that here in a little bit. And I agree with you, Sam. The icons were a little bit difficult for me, even as a gamer, to understand. This was my first time playing it as well, and I had to reference the reference sheet for the icons several times that first go through. But it's not unbearable, would you say?
No, there's just a lot of different categories, and getting those straight and figuring out what each one does. It just takes a little while, but it wasn't frustrating.
What did you think about how when you would take an action, it would activate all the cards that you had under that action? Did you like that aspect, or did it complicate things for you? What were your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think it complicated things. I thought it was a good way to kind of get ahead a little bit. A good advantage.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite aspect about this game is this is an engine building game at its basic core, but there's also this aspect of improving your actions throughout the course of the game. You start with 4 simple basic actions, and you can make each of those better. You upgrade them throughout the course of the game, and that's fun, being able to pick and choose and shape the way that you make those actions better for yourself. I like that aspect of this game. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I had a difficulty doing the build actions. I think I focused a lot on the getting more marbles,
Mm-hmm.
or you get this marble and you get to pick out another one from the container.
Right.
And so if I played it again, it's easy to get hyper focused on one specific area.
Yeah, I think you definitely went more for the picking of the energy marbles, whereas I was heavily dependent upon the building actions and improving my building and getting victory points there. And our scores were very close. I think I beat you by 4 in the first one and by 2 in the second one. And so I think that kind of can show that, even though we were focused on 2 different areas, I only beat you by a handful of points.
Yeah, that's true.
So what are some things about this game that you didn't care for?
Again, I do, even with the second time playing, the imagery, the icons on it are a little difficult. But there wasn't a lot that I didn't like. I would say it's easy to cheat. Just thinking from an 8-year-old's perspective when we play with our son, because I wasn't paying attention to your cards. You could have said, I'm going to pick this marble and this marble because this card says. We didn't explain to each other what we were doing a lot of the time, so you could have been doing whatever you wanted. I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. For me, there are 2 specific things that came up in my playthroughs of this game that I wonder about. The first is what you just described there, that it could be easy to not pay attention to what other people are doing. And I think the reason for that is, as you can see in this video here, the way that the game is set up, if you're sitting across from someone, their cards are facing them, and it's on the other side of their little player board strip, and it can kind of make it difficult to see what their cards let them do and the engine that they're building, how it's working for them. And so from a standpoint of, are they playing correctly? Are they playing according to the rules? There's that issue. But then also me as the person trying to compete with you, it makes it difficult for me to know what cards I should be trying to take to keep you from doing as best as you could do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't even think I could get to that point in this game. That would just be too much to think about at once. If I was to be thinking about what I need to take away so that you don't get it, I think it would have added too much complexity to it for me personally.
And so that kind of leads me into the other concern that I might have for this game. We only did a 2-player run through of this. I would wonder at 3 or even 4, especially at 4 players, how much does this get bogged down? Because I had a little bit of analysis paralysis there a few times, just taking a long time thinking about what card I wanted to take. You multiply that by 4, this game could get kind of slow, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. But that being said, I really liked this game. You brought up Splendor earlier, and this game very much is a lot like Splendor. For me, this is a Splendor killer. Like, this is above and beyond Splendor for me. I know Splendor is a very, very high game in your regard. What do you think about that, Sam? Is this better than Splendor?
I don't know. And I would say the very first time I played Splendor, I lost because I didn't quite grasp the idea. But the more and more I play it, the better I get, and I usually win. And so I do feel like this is one of those games that you have to play multiple times. It's not a one and done. You have to keep playing it. You have to learn the different motives and the different ways because there are different strategies to win. Whereas with Splendor, it really is, there's different strategy, but not as much. This is more complicated for sure, but I would definitely say you need to play it more than once.
Yeah, I agree with you totally there. All right, so let's get to our ratings for this game. I'll go first. For me, Gizmos is a solid 8. I really enjoyed my time with this game. It's one that I want to get back to the table. It's one that I want to try at those other player counts and see, just how it works at 3 and 4 players. But for me, this, like I mentioned, this is a Splendor killer. This is the next step beyond just Splendor when playing with a non-gamer.
I would agree with you there. I would also give it an 8.
Oh, wow. Rare occurrence here that we agree on the same score.
Yeah, well, it happens.
Okay. Well, so Sam, let me ask you the question then. Is this a game that you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
I think so. I think it's a personality thing. If a person would really enjoy this type of game, Splendor would probably be a good one to start with. But yeah, it's a little complicated, so maybe don't start with it. But I think that a non-gamer could learn to like it.
I agree with that. I think this is, like I just mentioned, the next step in difficulty from Splendor, and I think you should start with Splendor when playing with a non-gamer. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this game, check out the link in the description of the video. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. This has been Love to Hate.